Hello everyone, welcome to Literature Warriors. In this video, I will be discussing one of the essay type questions from the poem The Earthen Goblet by Harindranath Chattopadhyay. Well, so this question actually appeared in the last paper of O-Level English Literature, GCE O-Level examination. So the question was, the earthen goblet conveys how human beings use the power over nature through the construction of a goblet. So there are two parts in this question that you have to consider. I would be reading the question once again. The earthen goblet conveys how human beings use the power over nature through the construction of a goblet. So, the first thing that you have to notice here is how human beings use the power over nature. That is something universal. Now, we have to prove this theme, prove this concept, how human beings use their power over nature using the construction of the goblet in the poem. Now we are given a description in the first person narration of a goblet. So the goblet tells its own experiences to us. So with the first hand experience of the goblet, we get to know a lot of sufferings, hardships of the journey of becoming a goblet. So we can understand from that is how human beings use nature for their own purposes, or else human beings use their power over the nature. Okay, so as I have explained earlier, you have to focus your attention on two key things in this question. So whenever you are answering a question, the first thing is you should not hurry to write the answer at once. The first thing is you have to read the question several times. As at least you have to read it twice. Because it is very important to understand the question. Now, for most of the students, what happens is, when they see the poem in the question, they feel, oh, I'm really comfortable with this poem, so I can write it nicely. But you are not going to relate the story or relate the plot or what is said in the poem. But you have to exclude some of the important facts from the poem which is relevant to the question to give your answer. So, reading the question is really important. Although you are comfortable with the poem, the particular text in that question, you won't be able to write the answer in a good way. Because sometimes the question is complex. The question is complicated than you think. So the thing is, you have to read it very carefully, underline the keywords, and if there are, sometimes in some questions there are two things asked. In this question also you have to focus your attention on two key factors. That is, one thing is how human beings use their power over nature, and the other thing is how it is conveyed using the construction of a goblet in this poem. So as I have said, human beings use their power over nature. That is something universal. So obviously you can take some examples from the real world to prove this. But our main focus should be how this theme is managed to focus, how this theme is expressed through the construction of the goblet in the poem, The Earthen Goblet. Well, so when you want to answer a question like this, especially an essay type answer, you have to bring out your ideas maybe with 2 main facts or 3. So there should be a main idea of the paragraph you are writing. So usually, as you know, we have to start with an introduction. So the introductory paragraph should not run more than 5 to 6 lines. Remember, we are not writing about the poet in the introductory paragraph. We are focusing on the question always. Right. So when you are going to write the introductory paragraph, you have to start it with a general statement or something general about the poem, or else what comes to your mind at once when you remember this poem. And then there should be a thesis statement in the introductory paragraph, which means you have to focus the reader's attention on what you are going to do in the rest of the essay, rest of your answer. So this thesis statement is very important because you are going to tell what is the main focus of your answer. Right. Then you are moving to the body paragraphs. So that would contain 3 to paragraphs where you explain your points. So that's why the points should be very clear. So after the introductory paragraph, you are starting the first body paragraph. That is the first point that you are bringing out to answer this question. Well, so when we take this question, now we have to talk about the construction of the goblet, and through that how the poet shows the way human beings use their power over nature. Right. So the first point, you can talk about the sufferings, the hard journey of the lump of clay to be a goblet. So in the first 2 stanzas of the second and the third stanzas of the poem tells you the experience of the goblet, how hard it was to the lump of clay to become the goblet. So the red color, the crimson color used in the goblet, it tells the tense, it tells the color of blood is red. So it tells this deep red color to become red, and this may affect some kind of dangerous incident, some hardship, some suffering. So you can talk about the suffering of the lump of clay to become the goblet. So there you can focus your attention on the phrases such as break away, the burning process, the twirling process. Those are very effective for the readers because they themselves feel twirling now, a living being now. The lump of clay has been taken as a living thing. So this living thing is twirled and then breaked away and burned. So all these things can be taken to prove the sufferings of the lump of clay to be constructed as a goblet. And you may remember that the goblet itself tells that it was a fatal hour. That phrase is really important when you talk about the sufferings of the goblet. And that fatal hour. And don't forget to tell that this fatal hour has arrived for the goblet, or the goblet has to undergo such hard circumstances because human beings have used their power over the nature. So the nature is represented there by the lump of clay. So the human beings have used their power over the lump of clay to break away, to twirl and to burn it. Right. And another important thing when you're talking about this, you have to consider about what human power is shown in this poem. So, in this poem, the human power is generated through the potter and the potter's wheel. So, the potter and the potter's wheel symbolizes the industrialization and the human power to use over nature. So don't forget to talk about the potter and the potter's wheel as the human power in this point. Well, so moving on to the next point, you can talk about how the living breath of the lump of clay has been extruded to make the goblet, to construct the goblet. So, we are given a heartfelt introduction or a heartfelt statement about the relationship that the lump of clay had with the little flower, the fragrant flower. So, their friendship soothes our minds when we read it, but at the same time, the narrator, the goblet itself tells that the potter has taken the living breath out of me. So taking the living breath out of somebody. So isn't that the power? So that is the power of human beings. When they want something for their selfish materialistic goals, they usually don't care what they are doing. So they use their power over nature to fulfill their selfish deeds. Well, so then you can talk about that, how the living breath is taken out, how this beautiful relationship of nature, the lump of clay and the little flower has been destroyed by human beings. So they have used their power over nature in that example as well. So you can explain those two basically in your answer, and you can also talk about something general about how human beings use their power over nature. Not only to make a goblet, they use lot of things. They use almost all the things in the nature to make their needs fulfilled. So, although in this poem it shows that the construction of the goblet has been taken as the main thing to show how human beings use their power over nature, you can relate it to the general society where how human beings always overuse nature with their power. Right? So you can have something general in your answer as well regarding how human beings use their power over nature. So then, after explaining those things, you can conclude your answer, and don't forget to start your concluding paragraph with a phrase like in conclusion, to summarize, to conclude, finally, or something related to that. And then you can end up your answer successfully, summing up all the points that you have brought out in your answer to answer the question how human beings use their power over nature and how the poet has generated this theme using the construction of the goblet. Well, so I think you got an idea about how to answer this question, and you can relate to your poem again and go through it and then come up with these points just remember some of the important quotations as well. Okay, let's meet in another video with another discussion of a question. Thank you for watching.